of this year 2022. Wednesday is the day and the date is 28th. Good morning, our lovely and beautiful viewers. How are you doing? Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, and in the house I am with Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, here to wake you up and say rise and shine, right? The day is already started, and I can say that I have noticed very many people are returning to town, and I'm seeing the cars increasing on the road. We can't compare yesterday to the days before. Clearly now the return is being made by most of these people that had traveled up country, and I can say slowly but surely things are getting back to normal business. But how are you doing? How is your Tuesday? This is quite a very slow week, I must say. There is a lot going on, but also happening at a very slow pace. Yes, people are still trying to adjust from the Christmas period and also trying to see how they can conclude this year in style. Well, you wouldn't blame them. Even if I was the one, definitely I'll be doing that. I'll be planning for my exit from 2022 and planning for my entry into 2023. Businesses, households, everything and everywhere, the preparations are actually ongoing. Well, I would really love to know and hear the observations that maybe Robert has made as well. Good morning, Robert.
Oh, good morning.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm very fine, very grateful to the Lord, seeing how far He has brought us. You know, to many people it may just seem obvious.
Yes.
That you go to bed, you wake up, you're alive. Then the next day and the year comes to an end. And it's like, you know, you have to grow, life has to happen. You only look at money and measure success in terms of what you've been able to acquire. But even being alive to date, if you look at statistics this year, how many Ugandans have perished in road accidents? Innocent. When they are not the ones, it's not their fault. They have gone in public transport. Now look at the death toll of what happened on the Masaka-Kampala highway.
Yes.
It's now reached 7. Those people were in this Toyota Hiace, commonly known as the drone. They were going to their villages and they are gone. So if God has brought you 12 months of the year and you're still alive, no matter what you're going through, there's something you've been able to conquer. You've conquered Ebola, you've conquered COVID, the insecurities, these pockets of insecurity.
Yes.
People, recently I was coming to work very early around Mukwano. I saw this guy standing in the middle of the tree, and I was passing by. There's this lady on a border. They grabbed the motorcycle. These, I think, slave queens that move usually. She was coming back and she hit the head. I couldn't stop. Because I was like, it's well a danger, it's a dangerous spot there.
Yes.
But I don't know what happened thereafter, because when you hit your head down, horribly. So there's so much to thank God. And I want to begin by saying, thank you, God, you've been faithful. But also, there's one thing yesterday, I was following events at the burial of former of public service,
yes,
then also Secretary to Cabinet, Dr. John Mitala. And he was among the few Ugandans that have lived and died and left a stainless sheet. This man served in public service, he served in many categories, but not a scandal, an iota of scandal would he be held for compared to many people today. That when they serve, actually he's in the realms of the late Mayanja Nkanji, the late Paul Kawanga Semogerere, now John Mitala, the late Professor Apollon Sibambi.
Yes.
You just look for them. Just it's a handful. Those people have been in key positions, and you've not had them in any scandal. You've not had them in a court sijui. You've not had them, have they been convicted, not convicted. And I'm like,
you know, Robert, for a man who has been in public service for 48 years and they're leaving that kind of reputation behind, I am just wondering if other people in such positions, or if other leaders or other, you know, people in the same category just wonder and question themselves and probably, you know, think so hard. What does it take for me to leave a reputation like that? Because there are people, I can guarantee you, there are people in all these leadership positions.
Full of scandals.
You know, theirs is quite a very messy lifestyle, I must say, that we already know it even when they're still alive. So you're imagining now what happens if sadly this person passes, what would we have to say about them? And we're going to struggle, really scratch so hard to find the good things to say about this person.
Also given our African tradition.
Absolutely.
That when someone dies, it is only human. That in Africa we don't bring back the bad. But actually the truth is, the speakers may not speak anything bad about you.
Yes.
But the mourners and the general public will speak hell, how you stole these funds, how you stole this land, how the house where you stay. So there is so much they can talk about you. I want to say these are people that Uganda is thirsty for. Uganda is thirsty for men and women of integrity, that even when we finally lay them down, no one can bring anything that can stain their journey in public offices or in politics.
Well, I feel like as a country, we need to make resolutions for 2023. And if there are no people who will make sure that these pass, well, maybe we, the individuals, should do it. And I feel like one of the major resolutions we should make, it should be in regards to the kind of leaders we have, to the people we have entrusted power and authority with come 2023. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, maybe we should just scoop them out ourselves. I feel like we will be more efficient in that.
But you see also, these people are very wise. And I want to say that devil is not as foolish as he looks or seems when you are reading about him from Sunday school, Christian values, the devil, the devil. You see, I want to tell you, most of the leaders in our country, it is very hard once they step in power to remove.
That's true.
Your chairman, LC1, if you wake up one day and you want to vote to move a vote of no confidence, just LC1 saying chairman tukujemo bwesigwa tukyali chairman, the process at village level is very hard. You may have to look for 1/3 of those that voted for him.
Yes.
Now if the man was elected by maybe 1,000 people, you may have to collect maybe about 300 signatures. Come to a councillor. Move to parliament here. How many parliamentarians, Bambi, the voters just have to say, let's wait for 5 years to elapse?
Yes.
The man is chewing. The man is eating money, enjoying. You can't remove him. Recently, you saw the hardship just to censure a minister. The struggle of Honorable Persis Namuganza. It is not easy.
It doesn't come easy.
It doesn't come easy. So most of our leaders, there is a fence they put around themselves that once you step there, it is very hard to get them out of that. And also the electorate have become so complacent, have lost hope. Philo, today there are people that have lost hope even in casting a vote.
Yes.
There are people who have lost hope and don't think twice when they are choosing their leader. So that's why you find that if Philomena Mastiko, who is very exposed, a TV presenter, a graduate, a beautiful lady with connections, stands for a position, and there is another drunkard or a slut, people may vote for a drunkard. That's how hopeless Ugandans have become.
Well, there you go. But also in more interesting news, a government intends to actually recruit about 2,000 teachers this new year that is just a few days away. And I find this very interesting, and I'm also very happy about it because if you remember so well, during the course of 2022, they did weed out a number of teachers after that audit was done. And they realized that very many teachers were meeting the standards, they were not meeting the criteria to be able to stand in front of a classroom and, you know, educate the young people. So 2,000 teachers is what we are looking at, the number we're looking at, and also to be able maybe to get to cater for all the new seed schools and very many other institutions. This makes me happy. I am just praying so hard, Robert, that we don't have issues again when it comes to the education sector. Like we did have teachers, if you remember very well, was it earlier this year, but we did have science teachers go on to strike because of salary and everything, all the allowances. Then we did have the arts teachers, the teachers of arts subjects also join them. It was crazy. So I am hoping and praying that the 2,000 teachers, when they're recruited finally, they'll find that things are already in place and we get onto the education thing, and we continue without having any of these blockades, because honestly 2022 has been full of industrial actions from different professionals. We've had the medics, we've had nurses, we've had it's it's been too much to deal with. I could say we are really overwhelmed, and I speak for very many Ugandans. So I am hoping that with all these things are going to be much better in 2023.
Well, 2022, I think, I just hope that the culture changes, that this thing of industrial action comes to an end. We've had so much industrial action, but also recruiting 2,000 teachers is a very good move.
Yes.
However, they need what to use. They need what to use. If you go to some of these government schools, the teachers are there, the classrooms, some of them are wanting, some of them they don't even have the desks. So it is good, but it's very dangerous to be everywhere yet nowhere. I pray and hope that we look at the fundamentals.
As we're planning for the
education.
teachers, we are also planning for the resources that are. I mean, these are complementary things. Teachers work hand in hand with the
makes you a good presenter when you don't have mics, you don't have anything? I mean, your voice comes out funny.
We pray all this is put into consideration, and we work out a much efficient and all-rounded plan for all of these things. Good morning, Uganda is still going on. A lot is happening, very many stories locally and internationally. And Robert over here is going to be walking you through some of these, our local stories. Much later on, I'll come in with the international stories.
Well, let me begin by taking you downtown Kampala to see what the situation was after Christmas, after Boxing Day, as business was slowly catching up and few people were there. That is downtown Kampala. The number of people in town was low. There was less business in the city center. Business was slowly returning. Despite many people in town, active business remains closed. Unlike previous days after Christmas and Boxing Day, the number of people turning up for work is low. This time, many shops are operating slowly. On different streets of Kampala, arcades are open and vendors are on the streets operating. According to cargo loaders, during Christmas season, it's time to earn some money. However, for this year, it was totally different. Vendors on streets are many, and street kids are seen as usual, seeking for money and begging. On the side of food sellers and kiosks, many people are seen eating besides doing their work. In taxi parks, vehicles are many as touts looking for passengers, yet there are few people traveling. Despite large number of people moving in town, business is still very low. In arcades, only saloons are operational with fewer women in business. At women's market known as Kaja, some buyers are purchasing, although they are very, very few. So that was the situation downtown yesterday. Now, moving on, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has eulogized the late former Secretary to Cabinet, Dr. John Mitala, as a symbolic statesman who dedicatedly served his country until his demise. This was contained in his condolence message delivered for him by the Minister for Presidency, Mide Babalanda, during the burial of Dr. John Mitala in Kiwomya Kalungu district. The President condoled the family with 10 million shillings in cash. Now moving to Rwenzori, where we have leaders in Rwenzori region have embarked on a campaign calling upon the ADF rebels still active in rebel activity in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo to surrender and get amnesty. This was at the opening of a campaign in all churches in Rwenzori region to call on ADF rebels to come back home. as the UPDF and the Democratic Republic of Congo forces under the Operation Suja continue the hunt for ADF remnants, leaders in this region have said there is still room for voluntarily embracing the amnesty granted by government. State Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Chabyanga Godfrey Bakuku, requested people of Rwenzori to be united and focus on development. According to the missions coordinator, Christopher Chibazanga, His Excellency the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, wants them to ensure ADF denounce rebellion. And finally, on the local scene, we now look at Uganda Export Promotion Board Executive Director Eli Twineyo, who wants government to institute an export promotion agency that will be mandated to make research on upcoming products in order to identify ready market. This is as new crops and products are being adopted in the area of Kasese, West Nile and Karamoja. He urges that all this may not register success if there is not much government input to ensure there is ready market and also that there is enough knowledge on how best to handle these products.
And elsewhere, we get to start off with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who has unveiled new goals for his country's military on the second day of a key meeting of the ruling Workers' Party, which hint at another year of intensive weapons tests and regional tension, according to state media. Now, on day 2 of the meeting on Wednesday, Kim reviewed the newly created challenging situation on the Korean Peninsula and the broader political landscapes, according to the official Korean Central News Agency. Kim also set the direction for the anti-enemy struggle and goals for reinforcing self-defense in 2023, according again to state media. Now, the UN Security Council on Tuesday called for the full, equal and meaningful participation of women and girls in Afghanistan, denouncing a ban by the Taliban-led administration on women attending universities or working for humanitarian aid groups. In a statement agreed by consensus, the 15-member council said the ban on women and girls attending high school and university in Afghanistan represents an increasing erosion for the respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms. The council added that the ban would have a significant and immediate impact for humanitarian operations in the country, including those of the United Nations. On Saturday, Afghanistan's rulers banned women from working in non-governmental organizations, saying the move was justified because some of the workers had not adhered to their interpretation of the Islamic dress code. Well, Ethiopian Airlines will resume flights to the capital of the water northern region of Tigray starting on Wednesday, the first commercial flights to Tigray in about 18 months, the airline said in a statement. The announcement comes a day after a delegation of government officials and heads of public enterprises visited Mekelle to discuss the implementation of last month's peace agreement. The agreement, which included promises to restore services, ended 2 years of fighting between the Ethiopian federal government and allies against the Tigrayan forces, which have killed thousands and displaced millions. Now, from weather and climate, the one-to-one meeting between President Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali was not expected to make any policy breakthrough, but there was a glimmer of hope that they will be able to give at least an affirmative nod to the resumption of the talks on climate change. This is exactly what happened there to the March. Relief of the climate activists and enthusiasts were quite worried about Beijing's decision in August to withdraw from the talks as a retaliatory step for Nancy Pelosi's stopover in Taipei. Now, in 1998, China and the US signed the letter of intent for cooperation in urban air quality monitoring projects between the two, which proved to be the starting point of climate cooperation between the two countries. Well, that and very many more international stories still happening. If you look around, you will realize that countries are actually going through some of it economically, some of them trying to make sure they wind up their economies to make sure that maybe 2023 is better. But yeah, make sure that you look out for that and many, many more stories. Well, here on Good Morning Uganda, are restoring your word of caution when it comes to your health, Robert.
It is still festive season, and I know that many of you traveled in the village, but wherever you are, look for Hallelujah Reflexology products. That is Hallelujah Tamarind drink, Hallelujah Ginger tea, and Hallelujah Banana fruit juice. These will boost your immune system.
Well, we're going in for a break and, of course, a song. Today is Women Crush Wednesday, so you know how we do it here on Good Morning Uganda. You'll be having one of those great songs from one of those lodster women you have ever come across or probably heard of. When we get back, we have the newsreel lined up where we'll be having some more discussions between myself and Robert. We'll be back after this.
Recently, I was coming to work very early around Mukwano. I saw this guy standing in the middle of the tree, and I was passing by. There's this lady on a border. They grabbed the motorcycle. These, I think, slay queens that move usually. She was coming back, and she hit the head. I couldn't stop because I was like, it's well a danger. It's a dangerous spot there.
Yes.
But I don't know what happened thereafter, because when you hit your head down, horribly. So there's so much to thank God. And I want to begin by saying, thank you, God, you've been faithful. But also, there's one thing yesterday. I was following events at the burial of former of public service,
yes,
then also Secretary to Cabinet, Dr. Nyonyintono. And he was among the few Ugandans that have lived and died and left a stainless sheet. This man served in public service, he served in many categories, but not a scandal, an iota of scandal would he be held for compared to many people today. That when they serve, actually he's in the realms of the late Mayanja Nkanji, the late Paul Kawanga Semwogerere, now John Mitara, the late Professor Apollon Sibambi.
Yes.
You just look for them. Just it's a handful. Those people have been in key positions, and you've not had them in any scandal. You've not had them in a court sijui. You've not had them, have they been convicted, not convicted. And I'm like,
you know, Robert, for a man who has been in public service for 48 years and they're leaving that kind of reputation behind, I am just wondering if other people in such positions, or if other leaders or other, you know, people in the same category just wonder and question themselves and probably, you know, think so hard. What does it take for me to leave a reputation like that? Because there are people, I can guarantee you, there are people in all these leadership positions.
full of scandals.
You know, theirs is quite a very messy lifestyle, I must say, that we already know it even when they're still alive. So you're imagining now what happens if sadly this person passes. What would we have to say about them? And we're going to struggle, really scratch so hard to find the good things to say about this person.
Also given our African tradition.
Absolutely.
That when someone dies, it is only human. That in Africa we don't bring back the bad. But actually the truth is, the speakers may not speak anything bad about you.
Yes.
But the mourners and the general public will speak hell, how you stole these funds, how you stole this land, how the house where you stay. So there is so much they can talk about you. I want to say these are people that Uganda is thirsty for. Uganda is thirsty for men and women of integrity, that even when we finally lay them down, no one can bring anything that can stain their journey in public offices or in politics.
Well, I feel like as a country, we need to make resolutions for 2023. And if there are no people who will make sure that these pass, well, maybe we, the individuals, should do it. And I feel like one of the major resolutions we should make, it should be in regards to the kind of leaders we have, to the people we have entrusted power and authority with come 2023. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, maybe we should just scoop them out ourselves. I feel like we will be more efficient in that.
But you see also, these people are very wise. And I want to say that devil is not as foolish as he looks or seems when you are reading about him from Sunday school, Christian values, the devil, the devil. You see, I want to tell you, most of the leaders in our country, it is very hard once they step in power to remove.
That's true.
Your chairman, LC1, if you wake up one day and you want to vote to move a vote of no confidence, just LC1 saying chairman tukujemo bwesibwa tukyali chairman, the process at village level is very hard. You may have to look for 1/3 of those that voted for him.
Yes.
Now if the man was elected by maybe 1,000 people, you may have to collect maybe about 300 signatures. Come to a councillor. Move to parliament here. How many parliamentarians, Bambi, the voters just have to say, let's wait for 5 years to elapse?
Yes.
The man is chewing. The man is eating money, enjoying. You can't remove him. Recently, you saw the hardship just to censure a minister. The struggle of Honorable Persis Namuganza. It is not easy.
It doesn't come easy.
It doesn't come easy. So most of our leaders, there is a fence they put around themselves that once you step there, it is very hard to get them out of that. And also the electorate have become so complacent, have lost hope. Philo, today there are people that have lost hope even in casting a vote.
Yes.
There are people who have lost hope and don't think twice when they are choosing their leader. So that's why you find that if Philomena Mastiko, who is very exposed, a TV presenter, a graduate, a beautiful lady with connections, stands for a position, and there is another drunkard or a slut, people may vote for a drunkard. That's how hopeless Ugandans have become.
Well, there you go. But also in more interesting news, a government intends to actually recruit about 2,000 teachers this new year that is just a few days away. And I find this very interesting, and I'm also very happy about it because if you remember so well, during the course of 2022, they did weed out a number of teachers after that audit was done. And they realized that very many teachers were meeting the standards, they were not meeting the criteria to be able to stand in front of a classroom and, you know, educate the young people. So 2,000 teachers is what we are looking at, the number we're looking at, and also to be able maybe to get to cater for all the new seed schools and very many other institutions. This makes me happy. I am just praying so hard, Robert, that we don't have issues again when it comes to the education sector. Like we did have teachers, if you remember very well, was it earlier this year, where we did have science teachers go on to strike because of salary and everything, all the allowances. Then we did have the arts teachers, rather the teachers of arts subjects also join them. It was crazy. So I am hoping and praying that the 2,000 teachers, when they're recruited finally, they'll find that things are already in place and we get onto the education thing, and, you know, we continue without having any of these blockades, because honestly 2022 has been full of industrial actions from different professionals. We've had the medics, we've had nurses, we've had it's been too much to deal with. I could say we are really overwhelmed, and I speak for very many Ugandans. So I am hoping that with all these things are going to be much better in 2023.
Well, 2022, I think, I just hope that the culture changes, that this thing of industrial action comes to an end. We've had so much industrial action, but also recruiting 2,000 teachers is a very good move.
Yes.
However, they need what to use. They need what to use. If you go to some of these government schools. The teachers are there. The classrooms, some of them are wanting. Some of them, they don't even have the desks. So it is good, but it's very dangerous to be everywhere yet nowhere. I pray and hope that we look at the fundamentals.
As we're planning for the
education.
teachers, we are also planning for the resources that are.
Yes.
I mean, these are complementary things. Teachers work hand in
What
hand
makes
with
you a
the
good
resources.
presenter when you don't have mics, you don't have anything? I mean, your voice comes out funny.
We pray all this is put into consideration, and we work out a much efficient and all-rounded plan for all of these things. Good morning, Uganda is still going on. A lot is happening, very many stories locally and internationally. And Robert over here is going to be walking you through some of these, our local stories. Much later on, I'll come in with the international stories.
Well, let me begin by taking you downtown Kampala to see what the situation was after Christmas, after Boxing Day, as business was slowly catching up and few people were there. That is downtown Kampala, the number of people in town was low. There was less business in the city center. Business was slowly returning. Despite many people in town, active business remains closed. Unlike previous days after Christmas and Boxing Day, the number of...
And we are on to the Good Morning Uganda Newsreel segment this Wednesday morning. If you have just joined us, well in, I could say you've come in at the right time. And if you've been with us, well, again, you made a better decision or choice to wake up with us this morning. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am with Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono. Well, our discussion this morning, we're going to be looking at our farmers here in Uganda. Now, for a couple of years, or I mean, from the time I have been put into this existence, Robert, the one statement I have continuously and consistently heard people talk about is that agriculture is the backbone of Uganda's economy. Well, of course, as time goes on, we have tried in as much to make sure that we slice it up and try to see how does Uganda benefit from agriculture? Why do we call it the backbone of Uganda's economy? Well, this morning we did have we're going to have a discussion about farmers still in this same group, talking about how they would be expecting or how they need government to come through for them. How they are asking government to put subsidies, especially on all these agricultural inputs. When we talk about agricultural inputs, there is quite a lot that is indulged in there. We're looking at pesticides, we're looking at fertilizers, we're looking at accessibility to markets, we're looking at accessibility to, you know, all these things that you need to make sure that agriculture, the whole process is seamless from the word go till the very final step. Now, we do have very many types of farmers, but most commonly we do have the commercial farmers, we do have the subsistence farmers, although of course His Excellency has been advocating more for us to shift from the former to the latter, and he really says we can't work. There is that one common statement, Robert, you always said that you quoted him saying, you can't work straight from the garden to the mouth or to the stomach. It doesn't work like that if we are really going to rely so much on agriculture commercially and economically. But yes, when they talk about the subsidies, I mean, it's very important for us to know why are they asking for this. And anyway, what is a subsidy? If a farmer comes out and asks government to put subsidies on certain things, certain inputs, what does it mean? What relevance is that to him or her as a farmer, but also to you as a final consumer, because you like it or not, you are a beneficiary of the works of some of these farmers. And maybe, Robert, you could just take it from there.
Well, I'll begin with what you've all grown up hearing is that agriculture is the backbone of this country. And to me, I want to say this is a shame, because a country like Uganda, the pearl of Africa, gifted by nature, when we keep on saying agriculture is the backbone of this country, but you have 60% of your farmers in subsistence agriculture. Balimira chenda chonka. His Excellency, you know, there was a time during COVID-19 that we were learning Runyankole slowly by slowly. Every time he would come, he would get learn over saying or some word. And I picked that, Chenda Chonka, like, these are people who plant and all they plant is for them to eat. So, such people will rotate in the circle of poverty because all the time they are not earning. If they're earning, it's very little, but basically you'll find them, he will have maybe half a quarter, an acre of maize, then plant some beans somewhere, then they're disorganized. By the end of the day, they have what to eat. So they don't lack what to eat. Now, when we talk about agricultural subsidies, in any business, there's what we call maximization of profit. And how does maximization of profit, or how do you get your profits? You look at your total expenditure. Then, after you've grown your products, you've sold them, you look at what it has costed you to get that to the market. For example, if it is a cow, you look at, you have to have good keeping or record keeping. That, since I bought this calf, how much have I spent on it? Including maybe transport to the market. How much have I sold? So, the inputs you use, if they're expensive, they reduce on your level of profits. That, for example, if to fight ticks, of course now we have those that are resistant even to many pesticides.
Yes.
But if to fight ticks, what you've been using to spray your cow, maybe you buy in 5 liters, but that is about 50,000. It means if you sell your cow at $1 million, and every month you've been spending 50,000, you remove that 50,000 times 12, it will have a reduction on your 1 million. If this pesticide government says we are either exonerating it of tax or says no, as government, for us on this particular pesticide, we are going to have a win-win situation where maybe government pushes in some money. So instead of Robert buying this at 50,000, Robert, I'll buy it at 25,000. That means if I get $1 million shillings, where I would have removed 50,000 times 12 if I've sold this cow at 1 year, that means I'll be removing 25,000. So it means my profits will go high, and at the end of the day, I'll have more profits because my expenditure will have reduced, yet I'll have put on market something that is very good. So farmers are saying, today, Philo, one of the challenges farmers are facing in this country, I'll begin with those in crop production.
Yes.
The soils, we've used them over and over. And most so having poor farming methods. Bush burning, soil erosion. Some people have to sleep on hills as if they are gods, Because for us when we were growing up, they would tell us, so some people cherish to sleep on these because they allege they are seeing the entire city and all that. But as they are doing that, they are cutting the plant cover. So soil is washed away. So today it's very hard for many farmers, and they will testify to this, to grow your crops without fertilizers.
Yes.
Now many of our farmers depend on fertilizers. Those in maize, those in even having a banana plantation today. You need fertilizers. Mention any crop, fertilizers. But guess what? Fertilizers are very expensive. The fertilizers where a bag of 25 kgs goes to about 300,000.
And I mean, while we are still at it, we saw this year that after the Ukraine-Russia war came in, some of the fertilizers, again, people did not know that some of these are imported from Russia. The prices were, I mean, indescribable.
They shot up.
Yes, they really shot up. And it was one of the biggest complaints that was being fronted by very many farmers, even farmers in these areas where certain subsidies have already been put on some of these fertilizers. So I think it really makes sense when you actually talk about it.
So you find it that now, if I'm going to plant an acre of maize and I don't apply fertilizers, if I'm expecting to get 10 bags. If my colleague uses fertilizers, he can get 10 bags, and for me, I may get 5. So what does that mean? I have poor yields compared to him. So it has now become a culture, you must use fertilizers. And farmers are saying these fertilizers are expensive. If government can subsidize. Some areas, yes, government has tried, but they give very less portions. Vutini for a farmer who is really serious. So one is fertilizers, they're very expensive. 2, I don't know what is happening. Today, crop farmers, even those in animal husbandry, will tell you, Philo, there are so many diseases attacking our crops.
Yes.
There are pests that, you remember the army-fall worm. Again, there is a cousin to it that came in the same family. When we finished army-fall worm, we had some kind of worm there.
Yes.
Then we had the locusts that we remained confused as Ugandans. Did they come? Did they? Until the talk
there
of
was
locusts.
too much pending conversation
They
there.
are coming.
Yes.
These ones were old. Now the sons are coming and the daughters, watch out. By the end of the day, we praise God that talk of locusts went. Though it went with a number of monies.
Yes.
But we have so many pests and diseases. And guess what? These are also terribly expensive. Today, if you want to get any pest, if any pest attacks your garden, and you want to get either herbicide, you want to get anything to spray that,
Yes.
the cheapest you can start at may go for 25,000. Now if you have about 3-4 acres, and these things are not in big quantities,
They actually come in very small quantities, yes.
and then they'll tell you at container village kano kebiri kitundu wetaaga butaano. Now an ordinary farmer or a person of 1 or 2 acres, that may be very expensive. So you need fertilizers, you need to fight pests. Now let's go to those in the animal husbandry.
Yes.
Diseases. I don't know today what is happening. Animals fall sick like nothing. Vet services are expensive. Even when the farmer gets knowledge, still at the end that I can buy this and that, they're terribly expensive, you know. So go to inputs away from now these that you need the fertilizers, you need the pesticides, herbicides, and all that. Now let's go to simple tools used in agriculture. I don't know when you last bought a hoe. Enkumbi.
Been a while.
Enfuka. Don't know when you last bought that. But today, a good one, if you don't have 20,000, a panga today has gone to about 15,000. Unless you're going to buy these fake ones. You know, recently, there's one I bought to go and slash, and the moment I tried to cut, it folded. And they told me, how much was it? 10,000. Those ones no longer buy. Now a good one begins at 20,000. If you're to go to sprinklers, that you're trying this modest irrigation,
Yes.
very expensive. People cannot even believe this. That's why they're very terribly expensive for you to afford. And remember, most of our farmers depend on rainfall-fed agriculture.
Yes.
Now sometimes you want to move into irrigation. They're expensive. The hoe is expensive, the panga, the slasher is expensive. Coupled with any form of modernity that you want to apply, it's expensive. So at the end of the day, how does the farmer lose? You spend a lot of money on these inputs. And remember now the price has to go to the final consumer. Now, when what you're selling is expensive, you lack market because people may lack the capacity to purchase your products because they're slightly high. So your matoke begins getting rotten. Or
Because I mean, all these products have a very short shelf life.
And you see the challenge you have is with the modernity. If you tell Philo that a bunch of matoke at this price, Philo can eat spaghetti. Philo can go for posho. There are alternatives to whatever you have. You get it. Today, if people in poultry will tell you how expensive it is to do poultry business today. So if you're going to tell someone that an egg is maybe at 700 each, someone will tell you, Amajitu Gaveko, let's eat something else.
Yeah.
So high cost of production makes it very hard for farmers to maximize profit. So they get small margins, small portions of profit. the end of it, someone tells you agriculture,
Yes.
everything is expensive.
Well, clearly, and also seeing as that the biggest percentage, we actually have a very small percentage of people who are into commercial farming. I mean, over time, Robert, we've had, it's not even only His Excellency, we've seen the Minister of Agriculture come out advocating for people to transition to commercial farming, right? If the statistics serve us right, we have about 60% of farmers in Uganda here deeply and heavily delving into subsistence farming, and then just 40% into commercial farming. Now, commercial farming, we are talking about agriculture being a backbone. Felix, Robert, between you and I, we have to agree that there is a big problem there. And clearly we are not benefiting from that. Or maybe we still have a lot to do to make sure we pull these people. Now, how do we get these farmers, the subsistence farmers, to transition into commercial farming? But even then, why has it been so hard? Because I know government has been trying to make, efforts to make sure that they pull people to this other side. But how do we get to do that? But then maybe we can even start planning on how we can make it easier for them into commercial farming. When we talk about the subsidies, when we talk about accessibility, when we talk about very many other modernization of agriculture, we can't be talking about modernization of agriculture for subsistence farming. We need to look at it from a broader perspective, which is commercial farming. So how do we do that?
I think the number of bottlenecks that we must address as a country, if we want to see people in commercial agriculture. There's one thing that runs my emotions, and sometimes I get emotional as a person very passionate about agriculture. Today, many of these huge farms you're seeing are not owned by Ugandans. That's fellow Ugandans, I want you to go and investigate. People come from China, they go to Rera, they begin rice growing. I know Indian farms in Luwero here. They have so many birds, they're in poultry business.
Yes.
I know Russians here. They're operating, they're buying land and engaging in agriculture. The Nasamukasas, the Ratoros, the Kirabo Robert, the Philomena Mastiko are working as laborers on these farms, owned by foreigners. A man traveled all the way from Russia, came to Luwero, bought 15 acres, arunda nkoko, poultry.
Yes.
But a Ugandan who has been there, for him is picking these eggs. So, what does it mean? First, this saying of agriculture is the backbone of Uganda. There's a way Ugandans, you see, agriculture in this country started, I want to say, on a wrong note. That we began with telling our farmers that for you, you plant and someone has to market for you. That is why when we look at the major cash crops in Uganda, there is nothing that was consumable. You had tea. Was there any Ugandan who would eat tea? You had to first take it to the cooperative society, then they come and buy your majani, then they process and you buy a finished product. We had tobacco. People who have lived long, the likes of Brother Atoro will tell you, no tobacco, you would just plant and wait for the buyer. We had cotton. Who would use cotton palm? You have to wait for the buyer. We had coffee. Unless for funny reasons, kuta mikago. But what would we use coffee for? You know, you can mention, and the list is endless, but agriculture, we weren't ushered into you growing, adding value, or looking for market. So that is where the first problem began. That our minds, agriculture was introduced. That is why sometimes it was even by force. We have coffee in Buganda called Chiboko. Our great parents were caned to grow this coffee. And some of them were stubborn. When they were given these cotton seeds, they fried them, then planted them, then told the mighty man, and she got a zimmer, because they were rebellious.
Yes.
They wanted to. So, agriculture, that mindset that many people were not ushered into growing for money. So now when these systems broke, people never had a way forward for what they had. When cooperatives were destroyed, people had their cotton. They couldn't eat the cotton. They knew nothing about the cotton. When these things came, so they were stuck and they lost it. Now go to our education system. Agriculture became a punishment. Mastiko, talking in class, they give you a hoe.
Go to the garden, go to the cassava garden, go to the banana plantation.
Now,
yes.
Coupled with the problem we got when we never had products that we would sell. That's why we grew up being told, Uganda, mention Uganda's cash crops, you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I don't even think I remember, but I think we had coffee, cotton as well.
Yeah. Tea, you know, you had tobacco. Those we knew. Now, we weren't used to marketing.
Yes.
For us, we plant and someone comes. So, now, school agriculture was a problem. The farmer was someone who was underlooked.
So the attitude basically we had towards agriculture.
The attitude of agriculture in this country. That today, if you tell someone, what do you do? And he says, I'm a farmer. Someone can even walk around and say, I don't know why we're going to come in magazine. So, we lost mindset. Mindset became a problem. Then secondly, the other challenge was also government of Uganda to a certain point relaxed on direction in the agriculture sector. So they left agriculture to a certain group of people that never made it attractive for anyone. You go to your village asking us to ask anybody. Abalimi waliwo olukiiko lw'abalimi. My God, the people who are going to come. Barefooted, collars, what? Balimi bokuchalo. So it seems to be attractive. Now, how do we remove these people? How do you address? And we didn't have proper marketing channels, like I told you previously, that a farmer by then would know, and many people who have lived long would tell you how they were educated. You would take coffee to a cooperative store. They give you a sheet of paper. Your father goes with that to school and you study. Says, I supplied coffee. When this money matures or when they sell, I'll pay you. So now farmers lacked market for their goods. Go to Bushenyi, go to Kawohe, go to Kasoga Kakuto, you find a man with they come with a fuso. They wrote this man's entire matoke. Then they leave him with 100,000.
Well, but I totally understand that.
So,
yes,
coupled with the lack of markets, then even accessibility to market.
Yes.
There are places I know osango mulimi n'akagaali nga atuuya nyenkwawo obugere n'enjala. Going through a bad road. One time His Excellency said that let's increase production. Because if I'm taking a pig to the market, it won't complain of the whole. But who is going to bring their car to buy your pigs when they know that from purchasing these pigs I'm going to a garage? My shocks are
they're not willing to risk their means of transport to come and pick that.
Market, we do not have, farmers have not been organized properly to have guaranteed market.
But
that's why if you look...
But do we fault this to the farmers, really?
Yes, because let me tell you, the previous way I've given you, farmers were organized under cooperatives. This would avail them with loans. This would avail them with quality seeds. Pesticides. So cooperatives shaped the farmer, owned the farmer, and ensure market that what you're growing, there's someone going to buy. Today, farmers seem to be on their own. That is why you see the few commercial farmers we have today, unfortunately, they are the rich. That's why I told you a Russian, a Japanese, a Chinese, Nigerian comes to Uganda. These people have means of transport to markets. Sometimes when you go to these markets we have in Kampala, during around 6, 5 in the morning, Even see these trucks, Doleya Matoke ne Jangeriko, Kirabo farms. It's distributing. This ordinary farmer doesn't have the capacity because a bunch of matoke in the village could be 3,000. When it gets to the nearest trading center, it goes for 5,000. When it crosses to the next few miles, it reaches 6,000. When it crosses Natete, it goes to 15,000. If this farmer had capacity to bring their matoke all the way to Natete and sell it 15,000, he would dig from morning to sunset. So, bad roads, lack of ready market, and this also now coupled with the fake agricultural inputs. Filo to do gule dagale litengwa nezigejja bugezi. You buy to spray your cows, ticks. That ticks
and
just
you bought it expensively.
put on weight.
Yes.
Today you go and buy a fertilizer, and your crops will just wither. Today you go to buy a hoe. But you're buying a hoe to dig. So coupled with fake agriculture inputs. So if we are to lift the question you asked me finally.
Before you get into it, don't we have the National Fertilizer Legal Framework, which is again part of government that is supposed to make sure that we don't have fake fertilizers on the market? Don't we also have to look at how well they've done their job? Because if we're having, pesticides and fertilizers and everything that is instead, escalating the problem, shouldn't we also partly blame some of the people or the stakeholders that are supposed to be controlling this?
I think one of the biggest challenge we have with our country is we have these institutions. We have the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, mention all that you've just said, my dear sister. But one, corruption. That Philo, you ask, how did a trailer, a container, 14 feet of fake fertilizer,
get into
pass
the country?
all these and land at Container Village? We have these institutions, but a person bring that container that is estimating to have about 1 billion shillings. You're not going to tell a person who is acting as the gate man that at million then Agambe, this one will not pass here. We lack men of integrity in some of these institutions. So corruption. I remember one time, I'm into dog breeding. There's a vaccine we use. There's a that kills puppies and it's called Pavo. We bought fake vaccines came in this country. Whoever was vaccinating, he was losing.
Yes.
When under our association, we went and attacked the person. He said, I'm going to compensate you, but keep quiet. He compensated for 20 million, 15 million, depending on how much your loss was. But he continued selling the vaccine.
You can imagine.
You get it? So these people are supposed to act as people to protect others, have not done that. But on the issue of how do we get these others, one, government must organize farmers. Government must have deliberate effort to organize farmers. Government must have deliberate effort to ensure that the farmers in this country are given quality seeds. Government must subsidize agricultural inputs. So that government must work on these things. Market. How do you work on market as a government? One, how is it easily accessible? Work on these feeder roads. Uganda border to border is connected. But go to some of these district whatever roads, they're in a very sorry state. Once it rains today, you can't. You have a pig and because someone have motorcycles. How many times you will fall? This thing is shaking the road here. You just end up falling. People will not pick your cows. So we work on roads, but also we must organize them in circles or cooperatives, well organized and supported by government. Let me tell you, Philo, it is very hard to get an agricultural loan in this country because some of these farmers, they don't have land titles.
Yes.
They babibanja. And when you go to the bank, they don't have something to produce as security.
They don't have any collateral.
They don't have
security.
any collateral.
Yes.
Second, and worse, government was to work on the issue of land grabbing. This is demoralizing people. You wake up one day People are living in fear. They can't plant anything on the land because their neighbor, his 3 acres, were destroyed. Someone came at night, there's nothing there. This issue of land insecurity is deterring people in commercial agriculture. You've just planted your maize, tomorrow a tractor passes through, then you go to court cases that never end. By the time a land dispute is settled in Uganda here, a child who was 3 has reached 10 years.
For somebody who had an intention of getting
and
into
very
the
funny,
whole business
the land
of
grabbers
agriculture.
are very mighty. That when they say maintain the status quo, for him is building. Now by the time the judgment comes, they have property. So we need to address that issue as well. Actually, it is one of the leading factors today, land grabbing. Why people are running away from agriculture and opting for other businesses. A child will sell his father's land and say, "Come get border," if it is not stolen. But remember, there is gold that he can put on this land. But they don't have security. Today, a Kirabo wakes up, he's in Kampala, he has taken years, he has never gone to this village. He tells Mastiko, "Me, give me money."
Yes.
Mastiko is asked, who are there? They are farmers. Kulikali mako kasoli, kulikali nake mwanya. Those are easy. I'll handle. These guys wake up, they just see a bulldozer. They pick few spears. This man comes with enough protection.
Yes.
You're coming with a spear, they're bringing AK-47 and tear gas. Then the villagers scatter. Some of them have never even tested tear gas. Don't go back, don't go back. That land is taken. So are you going to tell them, you know, some come with a heavy deployment.
Yes.
Some of them have never seen.
Because they're expectant of things like that.
You know what it means, tear gassing an entire village? Some don't, even if they just see some don't sleep there the following day. So land grabbing is also a deterrent, and I think this is some of the things that if we address them, when farmers are assured of market, when farmers are given knowledge and skills to have value addition to preserve what they are saying, then I want to tell you, these things will automatically play. Philo, fine, let me ask you. We are working on TV today. But if they told you, Philo, that you know, Philo, amatoke gafuna. If you go in 3 years, you'll be able to make a lot of money through matoke. Many of us would go into matoke business. Yes. You see, where there is market, things come into play. But in town, you can't have land where you're going to plant a huge. When you go to the village, roads, what? When you go to the market here, you're buying it 20, 30. So when you get so these are challenges. They are simple. Work on roads.
Well, clearly the accessibility is very, very crucial, but it's also supported by very many other tenets. Okay, we're looking at capital, we're looking at accessibility to finances, we're looking at fertilizers, we're looking at pesticides. All these are a support system to a very, very efficient commercial agriculture system, which again we are encouraging. Remember, the cardinal goal here is to have the 40% of commercial farmers currently in Uganda expand to probably like 80 or 90%. We cannot heavily and entirely rely on subsistence farming. And of course, we're forgetting mechanization. Oh yes, mechanization and modernization of agriculture. I think this is again an area we need to give our attention to. So to all the responsible stakeholders, there is quite a lot to do, and this is not again a role that we are leaving to government. Even you as an individual, we need to change our mindsets. Like His Excellency said, we cannot work for only our stomachs, because how are you going to get the money? It can't only be just the garden and your stomach. No, we also have to look at the economical side. Well, that's it from our morning discussion. We're going for a break. When we get back, the press review and of course the traffic updates. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda. Paying for groceries the old way.
3, 4. Yeah. 5.
I don't even know what he's doing.
7, 8, 9.
Allow me.
Paying for groceries with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to conveniently pay for goods and services. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
That's my wife. Yeah, let me just take these coins.
It's a new world. We are going global. A new world of greater connectivity. From Entebbe to Dubai, London, Mumbai, and Guangzhou. Welcome aboard a great new experience. Uganda Airlines.
Acquiring a tin is now easier than ever before with a new interface that is brief, simple, and cuts out all the excess fields from previous applications. All you need is your national ID and you're good to go. No more waiting in long queues, as you can now acquire a tin instantly from wherever you are. Remember, it's free. Experience our new and improved modern interface that is user-friendly.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome back from that break, and now we take a look at some of the stories in our papers this morning, starting off with the Daily Monitor. Government to recruit 2,000 teachers. Well, you could say new year, good news. The Ministry of Education and Sports is set to replace teachers who were weeded out during the audit process early this year. And they also seek to address gaps in the newly created seed schools and other institutions when next year starts. Family returns to demolished home after Christmas. Well, clearly Christmas may not have gone so well for a couple of people. Now, hundreds displaced by Rakai floods. In other stories, Tayebo rise to Museveni over Namuganza censure. Over 50 NRS cars go missing in Bunyangabu. We shall defeat General Muhoozi at NRM elections, says General Otafire. You can catch up on that interview in the Daily Monitor this morning. And onto the second page. Today in history, French chemist Louis Pasteur dies and Europe suffers worst earthquake. The year was 1908. And still in more stories from the Daily Monitor, mumps spreads to 20 districts. And they're giving you a list of the most affected districts where Kampala, Wakiso and Mukono come in with more than 5 cases. Probably another disease we need to look out for. And looking at the sports section of the Daily Monitor, English Premier League, which resumed recently, playing catch-up. Man City's mission to dethrone Arsenal at the top of the table resumes tonight as the champions take on Leeds United at Eland Road. Rain sucks Omar's dream fight home. Omar braved the heavy rain to come into the ring for some theatrics before showing off his world title belt, and later accorded his fans some selfie moments before the downpour became heavier and sent everyone home. But he had already made his mark. Well, looking at the New Vision, the big story in their budget, how 50 trillion Uganda shillings will be shared. And over 600 teachers deleted from payroll. Dr. John Mitala given 13 gun salute and showing you, of course, the pictures of his wife Florence in front of the casket containing the husband's remains during the funeral, which happened in Kalungu district. This was yesterday. They're giving you the major happenings of the event and how it all went down. Major events in Parliament in 2022. Well, this should be very interesting. And of course, some of the highlights from the death of former Speaker, that is Jacob Olanya, Tunamganza's censure. They're taking you through the major events that really happened in this August House during the course of 2022. And IMF gives Uganda an extra 880 billion Ugandan shillings. Now, what's this money intended to do? You can get yourself the new vision for that and much more. Also, court dismisses coffee deal case and CCTV footage over 20,000 first arrest. Well, Chinese agree to repair Isimba Dam. That's again another interesting story you could look out for. Sports section, new vision, surprise package in Bugema's team, and looking at the 6 days of action as well. Still and more sports stories, a year of revival for chess after COVID. And Motesi and Niger shine. Well, this and much more in the new vision. So grab yourself a copy of that. But also taking a look at the Daily Nation this morning. Man on a mission. When he left State House for the last time as head of state, former President Uhuru Kenyatta was either destined to oblivion or set for global status. Now, you will get quite a full story on the stock of the former president's performance since leaving office. What has he been engaging in? Well, that in the Daily Nation. And poll scores Ruto averagely, according to a new InfoTrack opinion poll. Kenyan State President William Ruto's performance in the first 100 days in office is slightly above average, even as they fault him for the high cost of living, rising food and basic commodity prices, and even delaying improving the lives of low-income earners. Governor on trial, MCS gives Senate 62 reasons to send Mwangaza home. Well, that you can also catch in the Daily Nation this morning. But also in more stories, I am no pushover, Sakaja tells big men, bar owners and cartels. And if you remember very well what went down in Nairobi just a couple of weeks ago, when they did decide that all the bars that were situated or located in residential areas should be closed down. Of course, a big section of Kenyans were in support of this, while others were in total disagreement, of course, looking at it from the business perspective. And in more stories on the Daily Nation, speak out for the boy child. He too suffers gender-based violence. Again, this is something that we have been advocating for, and not just only in Kenya, not just only in Uganda, but also globally, looking at equality while we are dealing with issues of gender-based violence, and they're also making quite some good noise about that as well. Well, there you go. The Daily Nation, Daily Monitor, New Vision this morning. Grab yourself copies of these dailies and see what's up. Well, getting onto the roads, the traffic situation. Yes, the traffic is starting to rebuild on some of these roads, like I did say at the start of our Good Morning Uganda show. Very many people are making returns from upcountry, getting back into the city center, getting back into town. And you know what that means. Obviously, we are going to be witnessing the traffic buildups here and there on several of these roads, and it's already starting to happen. This morning, I want to look at some areas in Kawempe Division as you're headed towards town, looking at Gayaza Kampala Road, looking at areas around Bwaise, Kalere, Nsoba, Bombo Road, all the way Benaisa Road as you're headed, of course, towards Wandagea, straight into Kampala. But taking it all the way from Kalere and looking at Mambule Road. Mambule Road this morning already has some heavy traffic on it, and clearly shown by these orange and red lines, and it's again a cut away from Gayaza Kampala Road, which by the way is also quite free this morning. You could feel free to use it as we speak, as you're headed, of course, towards Kalere. Kalere is quite a very busy place. We do have the Kalere market around there, so you would be expecting some traffic. It's a business center, so yes, we do have customers, we do have the people running the market, so it would make quite a lot of sense. But yes, do expect the traffic there. Looking at Naweri Road, we do have a few traffic stopovers here and there. We do have one over here, and as of course you're continuing towards as you're continuing towards Naweri Road, continuing all the way, you will be expecting again a few traffic hiccups here and there. But for the biggest part of this road, I could say it shouldn't be problematic. As you're headed towards Boise, it's very, very busy this morning. The orange stretches are quite long on this road, so you would be expecting again traffic inconveniences over there. Well, taking you still back to areas around Nsoba. And Nsoba is actually free this morning, the Nsoba Road, so you could probably use that as a one way to skip the traffic that is in some of the areas around here. And as you're headed towards Mawanda Road, all the way from Nsoba taxi stage, you should be able to navigate freely without any hardships around this area. And of course, we're looking at the overview of Chebando here, where you will find most of these roads I was talking about. And looking at Bombo Road, Bombo Road is very busy this morning. We're already seeing traffic build-ups here and there, as well as you're headed towards Wandegea Market. Speaking of Wandegea, well, quite very busy one this morning, and again it makes quite a lot of sense because this is a business center, so you'll be expecting a bit of traffic here and there. And of course, as you're navigating your way around Makere, looking at Makere Hill Road, well, we already do have the heavy traffic here. Sa Apollo Kagwa Road is already very busy this morning. The stretches are red and they're quite long, taking over these roads, so it's not going to be a smooth ride for the people who use that as part of their daily routes. Hoima Road also as well this morning is very, very busy. We already have the traffic taking over this very specific part on this road, so yes, you have to be very, very sharp and probably start looking for alternatives if this is a route you are looking at. Balintuma Road as well, cutting across through, should not be problematic. However, if you're accessing Hoima Road through it, you would be expecting traffic over there. So as you're making your way to town, coming in from those specific areas, you should know where to go, where to pass, to make sure you're not inconvenienced by all this traffic that is building up on several of these roads. I will leave it at that from the traffic updates. We're going for a break, but remember that we still do have GMU agenda still queued up. We also do have some more sports updates that will be coming in, of course, much later from Ruben, your sportsman. And I want to wish you a wonderful Wednesday morning. I am Philomena Mastiko.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak Luo.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
Was brought to you by
Gatawa with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. A land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills, mountains and valleys, the enigmatic animal species in the wild. A land where Africa is condensed into one small country with authentic endowment of nature and perfect safari. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, is without the crowds with abundant primates, wildlife and stunning scenery. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features, and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Discover the fountain.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
Hello there, I am Mollen Kenyena, a TV presenter at UBC, co-hosting Good Morning Uganda show. Well, it is a Christmas season, it is a festive season, and my message is, please be giving, share love, make sure that you have time for family, for friends, for fun activities. Well, I do remember as this being one of my favorite times in the year, my favorite holiday, Christmas. That's the time when you do expect some new clothes. I remember expecting a new dress, new shoes. That kind of excitement is one to look out for this Christmas as well. Well, from myself and on behalf of Good Morning Uganda family, the UBC fraternity, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Feliz Navidad.
What a wonderful way of ending 2022 with World Cup live and free for you, our ardent viewers. We want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2023. We thank you for being a wonderful viewer all through the past 1 year. And remember, 2023, we are bringing you Chan live from Algeria. For sports lovers, UBC is the station to stay on. Thank you and wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy 2023.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and thank you so much for being with us right from the hour of 6:30 till now. We appreciate that. This is Good Morning Uganda, your current affairs show, your morning show every weekday, we are here to kickstart your day. What do? We have some light moments for you, some jokes to wake you up happy, and we set the pace by giving you all the relevant information that you need to know as you go about business. So if you want to know what is happening globally, what is happening locally, for you to be able to fit in any sensible discussion, you can only do that when you start your morning with us. So make it a date with us every weekday from 6:30. The mighty four are here, plus the big team behind the cameras, and of course that and the technical wing, the technicians. And our main purpose is spicing up your morning. Now, welcome to this segment, which happens to be Good Morning Uganda Agenda, where we have a guest in studios. You're also able to be part of the topic of discussion by simply going on our various social media platforms in this particular segment and fit in the topic that we'll be discussing. Now, today we are almost coming to the end of the year 2022. What a journey it has been. It has had ups, it has had downs, it has had moments of excitement at national level. It has had moments, low moments, where we've lost great people. This year took our Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya. It took our General Eritu Mwine. But also it began with joy. That was reopening of the economy. So we want to dissect the year for you, and I'm not doing this alone. I'm with a guest who happens to be the Global Peace Ambassador, Milton Kambura. A man who has, if I'm to say, has a lot of vibe, very passionate when he's speaking, and how I'm humbled to have him as we look at how 2022 has been through the media perspective of it. Milton.
Yes, sir.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. We are delighted as Uganda to be alive. We are survivors, all of us. I think this is a historic landmark for making sure that we have even opportunity to speak on the national television, and you watching us today say amen. Thank you, God. We have a reason to celebrate. Because COVID alone, which took more than 3,600 people, globally we are talking about 11 plus millions of people. In the United States, where I would say with such a perfect public health system, also challenged with their capitalistic tendencies and systems, but they wouldn't sustain. They wouldn't sustain. Europe, a lot of our friends in Europe died. China, the Chinese were also, challenged by the pandemic. So I can say it has been a difficult year, 2020, 2021. Then we opened Uganda's borders in 2022, around February 10th there. So we thank God that we are still alive. And I thank the President of the Republic of Uganda for having led us in those difficult times. If it was the time of writing the Bible, I can assure you, Museveni was going to be part of that Bible. But then the Bible says we will not add or subtract anything from this. This is a holy book. But the historians are writing. They are writing, and I believe they will not miss that experience of COVID-19, Museveni leading us. And through, we have Covidex, Dr. Ogwang, thank you. I used your Covidex and I was able also to survive. Hey, it has been a difficult year, very difficult year indeed, my friend.
Now, Milton, let's begin with first things first. When we entered the new year, of course, we had some sectors closed. I remember our brothers of those in the entertainment industry. Then we waited for 10th Feb for the economy to fully reopen. Now, let's begin at that point. Early in the year, how 2022 began, opening of the economy, were we prepared? We had government try to put some funds as shock absorbers. We had business that never again. I know schools that are now poultry farms. I know of people that totally went back to the village after this particular moment. So let's begin at Feb. Their economy reopens. There's so much excitement, but of course there's also some sorrow.
Of course, when the economy opened, one must really be helped to remember that Uganda, before COVID, we were among the 15 fastest growing economies in the whole globe. And this did not just come as a miracle. It was from such a tremendous good leadership, the stability of the country, the entrepreneurial culture of Ugandans. And at some point, we are now trying to limp the 7% economic growth. But we lost our brother, our leader, Mutevire. May God bless his spirit and give you peaceful rest. But when we were hit by COVID, in the middle there, the economy collapsed to 2.3% economic growth. And for those of you who know the economics, the demand and supply curves, and how the potential consumption index, you realize by December 2021, we were still limping. But after the shrinking of the numbers of deaths and, you know, the vaccination effort by government of Uganda with the partners, United States agencies, UN agencies, World Health Organization, and the vaccine manufacturers, of course, we are the last on their list. That's why the international, the Transparency International report accuses them for having been not just to Africa. They remembered us as the least. Can you imagine? That's why I like the president when he said, let us look for all possible ways out to make sure Ugandans survive. So we saw the economy opening in Feb. We started seeing after 3 weeks from this 2.8 economic growth. Just in 6 months now from opening, and 6 months, that is in August there, we saw ourselves shooting at 3.3% economic growth. Now, this is December, we are now at 4.6%. Can you imagine? That means those of the people who are doubting our economic growth as just a sham or some cooked figures. Now this shows you that there is a tremendous capacity of Ugandans to actually achieve the vision 2040 even before 2040. Because you can imagine 2 years shutting down, opening 1 year, we have shot 4.6. This is a report from World Bank report, just 1 week ago. So don't say these are my cooked reports. We are at 4.6. So I am hopeful in 2023, if we really have very good economists who are really guiding the deliverables in the agricultural sector, tourism sector, mining sector, but also our labor export and all those sectors. And our gold, because we are getting $700 million per year, you remember. So, colleagues, I believe in the next 1 year or two, we may get back to our economic growth standard of 6.7%. So by 2027, we are possibly going to be at 9% per year.
Is in
and
case
that
we
will
do
be
not have
socio-economic transformation.
In case we don't have these shockers that we usually get, the COVIDs, Ebolas, and who knows what may come. But also, now around February there, after the reopening, there was the gospel of the parish development model, PDM. Our viewers, you must remember that this had been launched on the 26th of Feb in Kibuku district, where His Excellency launched this. Now, this was one of the areas that government had put out very clearly, and many Ugandans were so optimistic, many of those that qualify, because it was going to get the 39% people who are not in the money economy, to get them into the money economy. Here we are winding up the year. Circles were formed, prayer teams were formed. Many have never received any amount of money there. So parish development model still remains something to be felt by Ugandans. The hype, the pomp, the excitement, the expectations that many Ugandans had, even those that never understood it, we might say. But government injected a lot of money ensuring people understand them. Understand parish development model. I saw ministers, parliamentarians. For UBC, I want to thank the management that they took all of us presenters, and we had about 2 days training to understand the party development model. Much as it wasn't targeting everybody directly, but also indirectly. When you look at the pillars in this model, you find that there are those that will benefit directly and those that benefit indirectly.
The parish development model actually having been launched in a certain village somewhere in eastern Uganda by the president, you realize that this is a game changer. Parish development model is trying to really fetch the more than 17 million Ugandans that have been out of the money economy to go back and be integrated. Because at some point, one must remember that Smith, these are scholars of many years ago, at some point he said there will be a time when the poor need to be given money for free to be able to spend. So that they have liquid cash to be able to contribute to the economic growth and development. So those people who were there, for them they are just consuming, eating. But they are waiting for their sons in Kampala to send them money. Some of their sons don't have money, but they have land, for example. That's why when you look at Africa's biggest problem is that we have plenty that is not utilized. So the parish development model is tapping into those people, 17 million people, to be able to join the money economy, to facilitate activities, to now turn that land that is idle into production, so that they can produce food for the world hungry, so that our export capacity can now go beyond the $400 million small man around, to around even $80 billion. Why not? Because US, an economy of $23 trillion, is dependent on technology, is dependent on making sure every American is producing to the economy, and also at the same time consuming. Because it's not the issue of producing, but you must have capacity, what we call consumption capacity, purchasing power to buy what people have produced, so that there is what we call circular economy. But now the 17 million people out of the 45 million Ugandans, that's a big loss if they are not producing and consuming. So it was a good mode, but it needed leadership. And the president said, hey, let us provide the money. They launched the 1 trillion Uganda shillings. Out of the 44.6 trillion Uganda shillings approved by Parliament. And I thank Parliament for approving 1 trillion Uganda shillings to go down to our people, facilitate production, facilitate the marketing, facilitate the technology, but more so, make sure that this economic modeling is managed at the parish level. That makes it unique. So that the thieves of Kampala, because there is decentralization, we understand decentralization, but the people making decisions are still at the center. That is now what the Kaukumi of saying, go decentralize, but the Kaukumi is still in the center. Now, Museveni in his wisdom says, abantu bange, katubarozeko. Whether you like it or you are NUP person or DP or NRM or you don't like Museveni, but the idea of pushing money to the common man, that was spiritually right. Because in Kampala, people are just berries, they are just now let us take the money back to the village, because the village is the center, the body, the influencing center of Uganda. If the village is disorganized, if the village does not have tools, systems, models, then the whole country is not there, does not exist. So it was good for actually the president to actually take an elderly but visionary step. But it was late anyway, I can say it was late. If this was done immediately in 1986, Uganda would be in a middle income economy.
Well, Milton, let me look at your assessment. So far since the launch of the parish development model, is there anything you can look at and say this has been an achievement?
Yes, because as you can see the indicator, although people out there, yes, you may say you don't have money. But when we are doing research, out of 45 million people, we don't combine all of you. We may research out of 45 million, we take a sample of around 8 million people. What you get from 8 million people may represent what really is at the macro level. So when I have just told you that the economy had collapsed to 2.6%, from 6.7% somewhere there, economic growth, and among the top 15 growing economies in the world. In just 2 years, we had collapsed to 2.6. But just by opening in Feb, and by December, World Bank is telling us that we are 4.6%. That indicates you that there is something cooking in Uganda that you cannot ignore, whether you're in opposition or someone who hates the government. But the issue is, there is someone in the garden. I thank the farmers of Uganda. There is someone feeding the country. We must recognize that person. And that person is the one that needs finances, because loans are expensive. Ugandans don't own banks, my colleague. So when we allow those poor people go access loans in these foreign banks, foreign financial institutions, the burden of high interest rate eats their profits. So that's why government, whether actually I would recommend that probably with closing these gaps that are existing of course kaukumiachari was
recently we saw the first bunch that came and people welcomed it with long fingers.
Oh mama. Now if we close those gaps in this coming financial year from 1 trillion, I recommend that at least because now we are going to launch the 50 trillion Uganda shillings. At least get 5, push it back to the villagers. Because it is not good to have a car, it is special hire, it is making for you money, but you cannot repair it, you cannot buy lights, you cannot buy tires. Possibly this only car you have are the Ugandans in the villages who are seated. 80% of our land, to me, is underutilized. There is a need to pump 5 trillion Uganda shillings back to the Ugandans so that they can be trained, so that they can get what we call solar pumps. These solar pumps. The President promised us these solar pumps. In his manifesto, he promised us that every village would have more than 3,000. But you see in this budget, I think there are only 2. And that is a gap. That is a huge gap.
That's happening. Well, I must get you away from the parish development model, because we want to take our viewer through the year, and we must factor in the element of time. Now, from the parish development model, as we are still hopeful, and we hope 2023 we will see the transformation where the 39% still out of the money economy. We will see this as success. Of course, there have been a few challenges here and there. There have been a slow pace move. There have been a holding on to money to ensure it goes in the right hands, and these may be some of the issues that have delayed the successful implementation of this project. But recently also we saw statistics of how many circles had received money. In the newspapers it was very clear, and there are quite a number, and of course we hope to see more get this money and use it for the intended purpose. Now there came the issue of hunger, famine, drought in Karamoja. This made headlines. People are dying. People don't have what to eat. We saw at Parliament, the media, we ran all kinds of pictures of what was happening in Karamoja. People were not having what to eat. But remember, there was also at the same time cattle rustling that had moved away from actually what we know. His Excellency came out and said, these are thieves, because these guys have existed with this habit where someone still takes cows, but these people are stealing cows, loading them. Rustlers don't load cars. I mean, don't load cattle. One steals and takes to another place, and he's having these cows. So that became also a very difficult time, until we saw one say, I've given you this time. If you're not done, I will come for you.
I think all this is, I can say the leadership in the Karamoja region has not helped the president because the investment we have put in Karamoja for the last 20 years, with us who understand monitoring and evaluation of projects, we must now start assessing for the last 20 years, how much investment have we put in northern Uganda? And what are those sustainable projects that have produced outcomes that we see being replicated in other parts of the country? There was, of course, LRA. I thank the President and the UPDF and the NRM government for having led a revolutionary fight until Konyo was repelled out. But now that there has been peace, that peace must be translated into social stability, social cohesion, of making sure that the people in Gulu, in Soroti, in Arua, in Kotido, in all those places are able to reintegrate and understand the power in unity in diversity. These people have been left alone because without that collaboration of clans, of tribes, of intermarriage, then whatever you're talking about will not happen. So this issue of disarmament, I am happy that we are still forcing them to hand over guns. Why are they with guns? They believe that it is them individually to provide security, not the government. They have never trusted the government that they can keep safety of their cows. That's the real reason. Now, those of you
The question would be, has government kept their animals secure? At all times.
There is someone who
because their livelihood is cattle.
Yes, we understand that.
And to protect your cows is a gun, because a raider will come and take your cows if you don't have a gun. That's why most of the times you've seen, I want to commend government, that yes, it comes and removes the guns. But why do we see these guns come again? They're not going to take your cows, and when you give away 3 cows, you're protecting the entire herd, you're going to get an AK-47. And a person whose livelihood depends on cows will shun from acquiring a gun.
The problem is failure to make analysis. Do Bahima have guns to protect their cows in Rwaktura?
Who is stealing their cows?
They don't have guns because there is already an awakening, a kind of civilization, mindset change. So when we are talking about parish development model, in specific areas like Karamoja, it must go along with specific friendly projects to do with the mindset change.
So of course that is one of the pillars.
But the way it is implemented in different villages should not be the same. To me, because the different places have different problems. The
problems have the Pokot, the Dodoth, who cross over from Kenya, come and steal, then go, then coupled with clever Ugandans. Some even in security. His Excellency said that now take advantage and say, since the Pokot, Dodoth are stealing these cows, we can also now take advantage and steal at the same time.
Exactly. So for me, I believe that 2022 has taught us now. His Excellency went there. He was asked random questions, very many questions, until I think somehow he asked a Major General to now take over a certain committee which is now doing a tremendous work. But this is not sustainable. It will again reoccur if we do not take Karamoja region and northern region in particular with certain strategic customized project designs to make sure that first of all that the peace that they have today, there should be what we call household empowerment on agriculture, because they are seated on land. You can drive 2 miles of land. They say that land belongs to this clan, but empty, there is nothing. So we were talking about industrializing that part of the country. Yes, it's a good place for industries, so that we decongest this Uganda. Kampala, you can imagine Mukwano is in the middle of Kampala capital city. Why should we have industries in the Kampala capital city when we have dormant land that side, whose population is actually unique, very hardworking people, loving people? And so we can actually disarm them, but we provide them also with the alternative sources of what? Of survival. Agriculture, we took the factory for fruit farming. That is Madame Heisi, Amina. She's doing a very tremendous work. But again, the population is fighting her. So that is mindset. Of course, climate change is also coming in, you know, hunger and all those kind of things, nodding disease. But then all that rests on the good leadership that is lacking in that part of the country. That's why government at the central level must focus on the transformation of those people, turning the 8+ something million people in that part of the country as assets for transformation of Uganda. Because
well, relatedly on that, let me join in also the floods. Still this year we saw floods coming, Kasese, Industrial Park. We saw our brothers there where some were even buried, some lost life, property. And this was also one of the moments of the year, because also the Prime Minister, I saw our Prime Minister fly over there, of course return even some blankets,
fake blankets, they are not blankets, fake blankets. Kaukumi, corruption.
Yes.
How can you give people,
shaking
you are
here and
helping
there,
them,
yes.
you give them fake blankets? You know, last time when Right Honorable Apollo Sibambi were there, fake hose in Guru there. Fake hose, fake. So the Kaukumi plus natural disasters, actually we are part of the problem. And I think 2023 should be, the president should be able to review his apparatus of government implementers, because we have limited resources that we are able to misuse. Can you imagine? How do we lose 20 trillion in corruption when our budget is, the one we can mobilize here is only 22 trillion. Out of 20 trillion, they steal 20 trillion. This is IGG's report. It's not mine. So we can do much if we close gaps. Abamu tubajje mu office yabo ababbi. Tuleta bavubuka we tuli wano abasajja bakozi abatalina bubbi. Naye tuli wano togera teri atwa mirimu naye nga gabi gali mu office. So 2023 should be different. I think another issue that I saw in Ushuja, that Ushuja thing.
Before we get there, we are still concluding with the floods.
The floods. The floods, Kaukumi, must be chased away from that ministry. The Ministry of Disaster, yes, it should be independent, with an independent budget. I saw Honorable Minister demanding that he should be out of Prime Minister's office. That is true. Why would a Minister of Disaster first beg for his money, for the money of the ministry, for disaster? And you know the bureaucracy of government, when people are being taken by water. That ministry should be National Ministry of Disaster Response and Service. We should look for a right name. Because
and rescue services.
We cannot just Ministry of Disaster. It is not called like that. We should
disaster
have
preparedness.
Ministry of Disaster and Response Management. Aha, that is the name. Even this ministry, some names are too old to be called so. How do you call me? How do you call a ministry? Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development in the 21st century. The Kaukumi also is in the naming of the ministry and how we have segregated the ministries. So ministries like this should be independent, and they are also lobbying and finding other external sources. Minister of Youth. Why should you put Minister of Youth under Minister of Gender when youth is... Are you saying Kaukumi? And then you bring sports in education. Sports is a big sector. We should make it an independent sector. Talent, youth, innovation. So some of these things should come in 2023. I think the parliament, because they are sleeping, no one will think about this. But then I think somehow climate change is very critical. It came in Egypt, for your information, the COP27, you know about that. And I think Uganda 2022, having learned, because we are looking at what happened during 2022, we are not going to allow in this 21st century to die like cockroaches, because I don't think the cockroaches even went to school. We should then invest in what we call disaster early warning mechanism.
We should be more proactive in the way and not wait to be active because certain things have happened. But then also now, in the interest of time, I'll have to jump a few of the things and look at some big highlights. There we are and then we received the sad news of the death of the Speaker of Parliament,
my
the
friend.
Right Honorable Jacob Olanya.
It was bad news, having worked with them, of course, for 15 years. You are aware Jacob Olanya, Right Honorable, was a very close friend, and we were working with him in Parliament, training MPs for the last 10 years, giving them international capacity building in Europe, in Asia, in Middle East, you know, through our global leadership academies, the conventions we organized with the Parliament, South America, but also locally connecting. Olanya gave us opportunity now to give us the MPs, taking them to communities to understand what we call community-driven development, which would really give them a policy understanding for community-driven development. So we lost such a man. We had a lot of hope in him. And we saw the year really closing down very badly. Then after again, General, your friend Tumwine, I remember going with these two gentlemen in South Korea during our convention in South Korea to go and speak about Africa and its potential to the rest of the world and attract investors here. Tumwine, I remember him presenting at the International Security Council sitting, which sat in Seoul, Korea, which brought all generals, military generals all over the world. And we are discussing the denuclearization of the big powers, including North Korea. And General told them that Uganda, through the liberation war, was able to liberate her people even without use of nuclear. And Uganda is a friendly country, and the whole world should learn from Museveni, who's using his brain to transform his country. And indeed, other generals were just laughing at him, saying, man, you don't know the problems we have here. We have North Korea, our neighbors, and some of the generals from North Korea were in the conference. But General told them, now, no time that this world will need nuclear bombs. It is not necessary. We should make sure we work together, we unite, and we break barriers. Then we detonate all these nuclear bombs. And he was very eloquent. But we lost them, but God, that is God, and I think it must give us something to learn now. How do we replace them? That is the big question to us. Those men who were with integrity, those guys, you had never had them in issues of corruption. Jacob Olanya has never been in any scandal, just like Muruli Mukasa. Those are the gentlemen that I've been working with, and now I am remaining with very few. I don't know why mine are the one dying, you man.
Well, let me lift your spirit a bit. I want to take you away from the sad moments of the year. Now we go to the business community when we saw the Uganda-Rwanda border reopening. This was an issue over time, how it closed. We first saw one person go visit the uncle, then later, and things began falling into play. And the next we saw was, yes, our borders.
But you know,
border was open.
My comment on that, as a diplomat, I'll just say, because I'm in Uganda, I have freedom to speak what I want. So I must say that the closure of Ugandan-Rwanda borders, basically, I can conclude here, history will judge me right. It was a lack of leadership. Lack of leadership on the part of Kagame. And I will comment it even if someone threatens my life. It was not necessary, having been a chairman of the African Union, and encouraging that we should now open borders. Then he's the same person saying we close borders. I must be clear on this national television that even when he opened, then Chogam comes in. He hosted the Chogam. And when you saw the pomp that the President Museveni got in Kigali, it was as if it was Kagame arriving in Rwanda. That shows you the power of people. You cannot deny people of Africa just to collaborate. You cannot challenge history that we are not one. Even with these colonial borders, which we are wanting, which we are working towards breaking. You cannot close people. You can't. We are marrying Rwandese. Rwandese are marrying us. Our families are one. And we are looking towards making sure Gatuna doesn't exist, Busia, and now you close on security threat. Which security threat? The security threat is actually closing the border. In diplomacy, that is not acceptable and it will not be tolerated. And I thank the president of Uganda, because if it was Idi Amin, he would have launched a missile on Rwanda.
Are you becoming an extremist?
No, I am telling you what they must learn. This should never happen again. We must learn, because we lost more than $100 million. Rwanda lost more. It lost more because South Sudan opened economic opportunities for us. DRC went to DRC. We had to extend our energy on the other side of the border. But then this caliber, this does not rhyme well with history. What shall we remember Kagame for? We will then remember him that he closed us, his own brothers. Because we are the one who took him to Rwanda.
Well, we thank God that those are issues, that were dealt with and handled very well. And it's our prayer that never again shall it happen where we see a country close a border to the other. Now, this brings me again to the twin bombings in Kampala, where we saw one at a Parliamentary Avenue and the other at Central Police Station, where we lost people in these bombings. After a whole long time of Uganda reassured of peace, such incidents could not happen. We last had such when people are watching the World Cup finals. That was at an Ethiopian village and here at Chadondo Rugby. So we had never, it was a shock to many people, though later the suspects were easily identified, and that surprised some Ugandans' names and everything. But kudos to our security.
Yes, I think when it comes to security, of course, having served in the Middle East for quite a long time, and having won, of course, the Recon Military Leadership Award, I am very familiar with terror, the agenda of the negative forces. Those are terrorists around the globe. But you are aware that these are sponsored and people who have been radicalized. I will use that statement. And it is our fellow young people who have been promised heaven, who have been told Jannah is just here. When you die with some people, then they will become your bodyguards in heaven. You will be given a virginity. Those are funny stories.
7 virgins await for you.
7 virgins, something like that. But then remember, it may not be only that. We have been working with the United States, and the US must appreciate our role when it comes to anti-terrorism campaign and effort that Uganda has led Africa in Somalia, South Sudan. We have gone to Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan. So at some point they put my head on $150,000 in Iraq, that whoever gets my head will be paid $150,000. I remember that time we were in what we call Combat Support Center, Talil. I remember that time. My colleagues on TV can justify and tell you about that situation. I had to come back. So we know the trouble Uganda has opened all over the world. By
Let me just, sorry to interject, I just want to get this from my viewers. You can be part of the topic of discussion by simply going to that number and send me a WhatsApp or a text message on what your main highlights of 2022 were. Your main highlights of 2022. We want to know what is that, the main, on the current affairs scale, what were your main highlights? If we talk about the year that is coming to an end, what are those that stood out for you that you would say these dominated 2022 as we continue discussing with Milton Kambura here? So send us your message there. We want to know from you. Now, when we talk about the twin bombings, this letter we saw UPDF head into the jungles of Congo, Operation Suja. Till today, they're still there.
Yes. So I was giving you some small background for viewers to understand. We are being attacked primarily for having joined a good war. A good war that demanded that we repel the enemies of our neighbors so that they don't later become our enemies. So we joined Somalia, we joined all of those countries But even domestically, now they are saying, okay, let us come and revenge on you. So some of these guys, ADF, can also camouflage with many agendas. Because you remember in 1996, in Kasese, you remember it attacked Kasese, it killed our UPDF soldiers, it killed civilians. I lost many relatives because I come from Karambi. I lost many of my relatives, 6 of them in ADF. So that is how sensitive this is. They even went up to Fort Porto, Bushenyi. They were actually coming to Kampala. Their agenda was to overthrow government. Very armed, trained, I don't know who. So this is an internationally funded terror group connected to Al-Shabaab. And those of you, some fools just say, you know how these some fools say, Chino Tichiriyo, Bagai, Musaga, Chino Charari, and some of them want this language. You know, I grew on the streets. I can talk also this language. So, colleagues, I must let you know, this thing exists. Uganda government is not purporting or alleging or faking. No, it doesn't benefit it anyway. The issue of the bombing in Kampala for the last many years, since 1996 up to today, justifies the increase on the national budget for security. This year, they did not increase. I don't know why. Because intelligence, this is something that I must speak today. The moment you don't give security enough budget, the so-called classified or whatever, yes, it is good, because some of the operations are classified. And 2, there is a need to revamp ISO, because you cannot bring someone of P2 to investigate a PhD holder. We are talking about cyber security. They have the bombing, but they are connected. Their operations are online. And they are being given resources through digital platforms. Now, so you are saying you will not add your budget. So the man will sit there at Okero House or whatever building and say, come and buy, the gaps will exist. Remember, there is the international police, Interpol, which by guarantee of our membership, they share intelligence, international intelligence. So if you have not paid the membership fee, at some point, General Eri Tumina told me, I have not yet paid the membership fee. Some years back, I said, General, are you sure? We had not paid because the government did not get enough budget. Now it means if Al-Shabaab is coming, we will not have any signal from Interpol. Because Interpol is not a free platform. You have to pay. Now, you have what you call Africa something something. There is also membership fee. These boys that are in the markets, in cities, in villages, Interpol, Gundi, ISO, and the ESO abroad, they need to be paid. They need awards. They need facilitation, technology. They need cars. Now, all those gaps, provided these boys and girls are tuju okuja kubeba okubabya wano ne bababya police we can imagine at the gate of the police mama wowe kitegeza you are lucky you and me who are in the church and the mosque praying no security. My God, that is something we must thank God for.
While we are still dissecting the year 2022,
can I add on something?
However, we still have so much that we want to look at, and of course, we must be mindful of time. Well, someone asks my question to Kambura, what is money economy? What do you mean by the phase? People who are not in the money economy. Another question, how does the person who is in the money economy look like? I'm always confused by money economy phrase. Please teach me. Thanks. That is Yasin from Kampala. I think this term is so much used when we are referring to PDM. That removing the 39%, taking them to the money economy because they're out of the money economy. Just a short one.
I think the money economy, it just means that you have capacity to buy and consume. But then you need money, right? You need money to do so. So government needs to do something special for those people. Not everyone. There are those who already do working under in the economy. But there are those who cannot consume, who cannot buy, who can, like for them, they are just there like a chibumbe, a chirikusita square. And he's a human being. That must be a crime. In some countries it is a crime. For you, you are just there, idle. You cannot consume. You are like a store.
What actually they do is people out of the money economy, looking at the context of the parish development model, these are people who basically live hand what they're in subsistence farming.
Yes.
So what they grow, they don't sell. All they live for is planting and eating. They do not have any way meaningful or assurance of maybe a monthly salary, or having hopes that when they're commercial farmers, so they know when my crops grow, they're just there year in, year out.
That is dangerous. The president has said, he has called it a term. I think this one should be put also in the dictionary. A chida chonka. I will remember Museveni for that. Chida chonka. You are surviving hand to mouth. What I defined it is that for you are not contributing anything to the country. Even a statue on City Square is better than you. You are seated on land, but that land does not even benefit your neighbor. Does not benefit anybody apart from you. Even you yourself. It will not benefit, because when you get sick, then it means you will over-exhaust the public hospitals. Because public hospitals, to operate, they need tax from you to be able to pay the nurses and buy the equipment and the medicine. But for you, you exist and you are actually a loss to Uganda. So literally, those of you who are in opposition and those of you who are in government, me, I have no side. I am a teacher to everybody. It literally means the politics must surround around empowering Ugandans to make sure they build their own country.
Well, away from that, Milton, there's something also that happened this year, much as it wasn't in Uganda, but it so much involved Ugandans. That was the Kenyan politics. I'd never seen Ugandans driven. The hustler, Ugandans had sides. You'd think this is an election happening in Uganda. And briefly, I think it's one of the highlights of 2022, much as it wasn't here. We saw our politicians take sides. Some of them even travel there. Let's also have a hint on that.
Ugandans, of course, I told you, you cannot just close this border. They will beat you. They will kill you properly. So, Ruto, we congratulate you. It was something good. And Ugandans, why did they have the appetite? Is that many of them thought Raila, having been possibly the opposition for a long time, would possibly attract sympathy for being the next president and the votes on his side. But it was really unlikely, and it didn't happen, although he was just 49, so just small. That shows you that Ugandans, just as World Cup, they were following it keenly, and it was divided, the country was divided because of the uniqueness of the candidates. Being connected to Uganda, you are aware, Ruto was here and the president blessed him. Even Raila Odinga for many years has been here, but also our tribes, the tribes in Kenya, the ones here, they are there. So the politics that happens here also influences them in one way or the other. So basically, in summary, that even when he came here during the Independence Day, his speech was a narrative of Ugandans. Let us break borders. Let Uganda, Batoro work together. Let everybody, all religions, let us make sure Africa unites. And it was such a good thing. And the president used that platform, my brother, to say enough is enough. No more global spectrums stealing Africa. Coffee, $460 billion economy of coffee, but Africa only gets $2 something, and the farmer is still using geho. His child cannot go to school. Then I saw how Ugandans, there is a blending of East Africa. And I think this is the president. I think this goes to the president directly as we close. I know you are closing the
No, we are going to wind up with the final thing of the year, if you are to crown up 2022, which was the Ebola outbreak.
Yes. Can I wrap it up with
Let's
that?
Let's wrap
also?
up with that.
I think the Ebola, of course, in Kasanda and Mubende. This Ebola, South Sudan is something the strain. We were attacked by that, and up to today, the people that lost loved ones, sorry, may God bless you and make you stand again. but then the closure of schools because of Ebola, I think to me it was not necessary. And I think the future mandates us now to start developing our own vaccines of all what we think will make us close our economy. So I think 2023, my brother, it's going to be a good year. I think we are going to pass a budget of 50 trillion Uganda shillings, but I pray that people like Steel and Tube, a Ugandan man comes up and opens a company of that caliber. I think, Mr. President, if you are listening to me, 2023, use it to empower Ugandans, Ugandan entrepreneurs, so that those that have exemplified and are exemplary add money in their SME projects, so that by 2026, you have more than 100 billionaires, not in shillings, I mean in dollars, that you claim that then, even if anything happens, you have a middle income economy. Ugandans are billionaires, the industries belong to them. You have reduced the import levels from 78% to around 20%, that everything we are putting on, the underwears, the chairs, everything is Uganda, even including the medicine, even the saloons, those Uganda, even the weaves, no more weaves. If I was a president, those weaves would have been banned. How we spend over $1 trillion in weaves. How much do you spend at your home? Anyway, that is your problem. But the issue is no more spending on anything that is not Uganda.
That will require empowering our industries and, of course, mindset change that people can buy and build Uganda. I know many people, you go to a shop and they tell you this is Ugandan made, this is UK, and a Milton Kambura, very passionate, will go for a suit made in Italy. Mindset change. So if you don't do that, we are very passionate, but when it comes to making choices, they tell you this is a chair made in Uganda. He's a Pan-Africanist. He likes Uganda. He's very passionate, but you will say, I want furniture from Italy. Then
that one.
So we must have mindset change. But also we are grateful to the Lord that as we come to the end of 2022,
yes.
First and foremost, for some days now we've not registered any new case of Ebola. We are waiting for the 11th of January because that is when the 42 days will elapse. If we do not have any new case of Ebola like it is now, we do not have any contacts that is on admission, our isolation centers have been cleared, then believe you me, World Health Organization will declare Uganda Ebola free. Well, we thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for the messages, and of course, thank you for standing with us from the hour of 6:30 till now. See you later. I'll leave you with Ruben. He's here to take you through sports, and of course, Global Peace Ambassador. Thank you so much. We don't shake hands, my brother.
Oh my God.
Until we are declared Ebola free. But I'll just wish you the best of the remaining days into 2023. Good morning.